So the Herblock Foundation is going to give a scholarship for a political editorial cartoon or an idea. And so your first job is to pick out a theme. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to model this. I'm going to pick out 2 themes and I'm going to run with them. And you can see the start of it. This is not the end, but this is how I would start off with a political process. As you go into this political theme, one of the best gifts you can give anybody is empathy. Write that down, empathy. Because as you establish your own political views, and as we're creating this project to illustrate, if you lose sight of empathy, it's very easy to become kind of tribal and you're only kind of looking out for yourself. You have to practice empathy. So I'm going to pick 2 topics. One is taking a knee, which is very appropriate for being in this room, right? For athletes. So I have 2 topics, and I've not really researched either of these. So I'm showing you how to start the process for picking a theme. One of the things that's been controversial is people taking a knee, right? It's been a big deal. Everybody seems to have an opinion. What are they saying?
Police brutality.
Police brutality.
Equality,
Okay. So they're making a statement. I grew up in Sussex County, Delaware, and I have noticed some of my friends that I grew up with feel like that's not right. They feel like it's wrong for athletes to take a knee during the anthem. To give you a little bit of history of my community, I grew up Mennonite, and Mennonites don't believe in going to war. They're a pacifist. Another word is conscientious objector, and they don't believe it's right to go to war. They were going to public school, Greenwood Public School, and they would pledge allegiance to the flag, and the Mennonite kids wouldn't do it. So what do the kids do? They sit. During the Pledge of Allegiance, the kids sit. They don't stand up. The teacher is upset. The teacher calls the principal. They send him to the principal. The principal says, you need to stand when there's a Pledge of Allegiance. You can't just sit there. Kids say, well, we don't believe that's right. The principal kicks them out of school. Eventually, they were permanently kicked out of school. The school board said, no, yeah, you have to pledge allegiance to the flag, and it means that you're willing to go to war. Now they have a problem, because now they're truant. You have to be at school, but they don't believe in pledging allegiance to the flag. And the reason they wouldn't stand up to pledge allegiance is because they were under the impression that if you stand and pledge allegiance to the flag, that means you're willing to fight for the country. Well, there's a problem. They don't believe in going to war, right? They pay their taxes, they do other things, but they don't think it's right to kill your enemy. They believe you're supposed to love your enemy, okay? It's really hard to love your enemy when you shoot them. If this was your topic, you could study just war theory. There's a lot of things you could research. But I grew up really struggling with this idea of could I go to war? This was a huge issue for me as a kid growing up. And when I was 16, I signed conscientious objector. Ask me what I think today, it's very complicated. It actually started in my grandpa's basement. They started a little school for these kids, and then it turned into the Greenwood Mennonite school that I ended up going to. This is my background. People from my community that know that history, that their grandparents and their parents would not stand and pledge allegiance to the flag, are some of the same people that think it's wrong to take a knee if you're an athlete, that it's not patriotic. Do you guys see the problem with this thinking? By nature, we're very tribal. We like to establish tribe. And the tribe usually is made up, a lot of times it's easiest to make your tribe up of people with the same skin color, the same socioeconomic background as you, the same religion. It's easy to get tribal. And when you get tribal, it's easy to look out for the rights of the tribe. And you have issues with the political system, and you feel like, well, I don't feel like it's right, it's against my religion to fight for my country, then it's okay. It's okay for me not to pledge allegiance to the flag. But then if an athlete has issues with how the police are handling things, for them to take a knee, that's completely unacceptable. Like, you have to be empathetic. And if you're ever not sure why someone's burning a flag or doing something that you find horrific, maybe have a conversation with them. And here would be a thing you could actually say. You could say, do you hate our country? Or are you just really frustrated? Right? Wouldn't that make sense? Why assume that someone who takes a knee hates America? Why would you assume that? Maybe ask them, do you hate America? Do you wish you lived somewhere else? And they can tell you. So for me, there's a small emotional and biographical connection to this topic, but I have not researched it at all. So for me to go and start making art about this would be absurd, because I haven't interviewed people. I haven't talked to people on both sides of these issues. I haven't talked to vets who fought for our country, and when they see the flag burn, the trauma that happens. Are you guys tracking with me? So for me to do this topic justice, I would need to research it out. Here's another topic that I could deal with. And the reason I'm picking immigration is because sometimes people merge topics. Never merge topics. Write that down. A friend of mine said that she was very concerned about the sexual predators that were coming across the border into our country. That very day of this conversation, I was reading an article in the Times-Union, which is our local newspaper, about a sexual predator, and it was talking about he went to jail, and then he got out, and then he was repeating a lot of the same behavior. And it's the kind of thing, if I told you what he did, you would all agree he belongs in jail. Guess what he looked like? He looked a little bit like me. He had white skin. He had a gray beard. He was a little older than me, but he was ethnically a version of me. He even lived in Indiana. What a coincidence. He even grew up in this town. If you're going to say that people that are coming across the border are sexual predators, here's how you would have to go in your research. Is you would have to try to look at the demographic. And this would be a tremendous amount of work to do. If you would like to do it, it's up to you. But if you're going to make a case like that, you've got a lot of research to do, and I wouldn't just go to YouTube or news channels. You're going to have to try to get to the source. You'd have to say, as a demographic, if you were to survey 1,000 immigrants coming in, there's a higher percentage of them that are drug dealers or that are sexual deviants. And these are the things that you guys have probably heard on the news. You've heard these kind of conversations. And when you start clustering things together, that's racism. If you are going to cluster two things together and say white people tend to have a lower IQ than other ethnicities, you've got to do a tremendous amount of research to say that. And that is your thesis, right? And then you nail down into that. And I can tell you, one of the things that's causing so much division politically in our country right now is just that thing. It's like merging topics in weird ways. So that if you have this worldview, this religion, this skin color, then you also are these things. And it's just a dangerous place to go. And if you ever decide to merge topics, do the research and make sure you know what you're talking about. You guys tracking with me? So I think politics is most interesting when there's some connection. One student in the other class said, it's an art class, why politics? Here's the thing you need to remember about art is a study of everything else. It's the study of aesthetics, which is beauty, right? It's the study of love. It's the study of psychology. And you're like, we're thankful for that for you, Mr. Schwarzentrooper. It's the study of philosophy. And I made the mistake one time of telling one of my mentors in a graduate crit that my work was not political. That was unbelievable. All the politics that were in my work that I didn't really even think about. You should be able to understand your opponent's views so well you could argue better than they can. Then you see the complexities of the issues. That's what I want from you. In fact, if you want to, you could even take your sheet of paper, put a line down the middle, and kind of put arguments for both sides of it. Because you really do want to understand. And honestly, a lot of times politically, the answers are kind of in the middle. They really are. There's going to be some give and take. And things are always complicated. They're never simple. I wish they were. If it was simple, it wouldn't even really be an issue, right? We could just all agree. There are certain things that we created laws for that we all agree about. And they don't even feel political because we just all agree that the behavior this guy was doing is wrong. Like, you don't have to be a Republican or a Democrat to look at this situation. If you read this article, everyone would say, that guy's got to be in jail. Would anybody like to share a political topic you're exploring? Yeah.
Should you be able to carry a gun with you?
Okay. Do you want to share what your take on that is?
I think you should be able to go with like specific things that you have to do before you actually get it. Like a background check, permits, and just other stuff that you should. But yeah, it's just what I think.
Anybody else want to share your topic? Yeah.
Do something about parents.
Okay.
Probably something towards like representation in the media.
Okay. So what would that look like politically?
I don't know. Maybe more on the topic of people vilifying gay people in just general everyday life.
Sure. So I'm gonna push you a little bit. Would you legislate how people talk or what they say? What would that look like politically? Because there's a social side of it, but then there's the political side of how you handle something like that. How would you handle it politically? It's a little trickier, isn't it?
Yeah. What's legislate?
Make laws.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. I'm with you. This is a complicated issue, and the reason is laws take away freedom. Some laws are good. The tricky part is as people talk and use words, and this has been the big thing lately, is people using words and being told they can't use words. We all know that hitting each other, shooting each other, stabbing each other is not good. My mother used to tell me when I was a little kid and I'd push my brother or punch him, he said, use your words, right? You don't need to be hitting each other. How do you legislate civility, right? It's like, just be civil. Like, sometimes you wish people just wouldn't talk instead of saying such mean things.
Free college. And basically on that right now, there's I think 24 states doing promise programs, which we're one of them, that allows quite a few people way easier to get into college. But the basis of free college is to make everything free for everyone, which is what one of the things what Biden actually wants to do. But there has been people that have benefited. There was this one girl in California that went through California's Promise program and got into a community college for basically nothing.
Yeah.
And then got to go to Yale for almost free off of a scholarship because of what she did in the community college.
Mm-hmm.
But then there's also the people that's saying for everyone that people who can't afford it already get the benefits and what they need to go to college.
Mm-hmm.
And then there's also where's it going to come from?
Mm-hmm. Where's the money coming from? Yeah.
Which is probably going to be, which is supposed to be taxpayers.
Were you going to say something?
Well, I would say a solution could be just tax people who have kids and not tax people who don't have kids because their kids are not going to.
That would be fair, but
It's their kids are going to go to college, but people who don't have kids, why would they pay taxes for that who don't have kids?
that would be the fair thing to do.
Yeah.
But it's it's people with kids that need the money the most, right?
Exactly.
I'm with you. One of the things to think about with politics is when you're voting, can you vote unselfishly? So I'm getting older, so I'm most interested in things like Social Security. I'm less interested in free college. My boys are already kind of through it. I could be concerned about someday grandkids, but it's easy to vote in a selfish way, to say, I'm not I'm not going to benefit personally, so I'm going to vote against it. What do you think of that? Yes.
I think that's probably the way that most people do vote, is for themselves and not like for others, which can like be a problem. But like you kind of do have to be like a self-advocate. Like you have to vote for what you care about.
Yeah.
And so yeah, I mean it's good if you care about things for other people. But yeah.
I've been different places and there'll be an elderly person come out and they're talking about Social Security and retirement benefits and you need to vote this way. And I'm like, it's so transparent that clearly politics is all about self-preservation for that person. It's kind of ugly, isn't it? It's really kind of ugly when you see people. Or I was doing a college campus visit. They were angry about the cost of tuition and they were protesting. It's kind of self-serving and ugly. Wouldn't it have been interesting for those two to flip and the student to be protesting Social Security issues and the elderly person saying, we need kids to be able to go to college for a lot cheaper than it is, right? That's one of the reasons why you need to also look out for the marginalized and people of different skin color than you. Because if I talk about feminist issues and women's rights, that's not self-serving for me. It's me looking out for someone who's not me. What are some other topics you guys picked?
Gun violence.
Gun violence, okay. What are some opinions or what are some things you've already ran across with that?
I just was thinking of ideas. I haven't like researched anything.
Yeah.
But I just think that like it's too like easy to be able to get a gun. So I think yeah, it just needs to be a little bit more difficult so that people who could do bad things could hopefully will not be able to get a gun so easily.
Yeah.
If you look at the shootings, depending on how many bullets they carry, they don't kill as many people as you would think.
Yeah. Depends on which gun you use.
You're saying their intention is more a big news thing than actually killing a lot of people?
Yeah.
Okay. Just imagine how dark psychologically people get. Anytime you guys can love somebody that doesn't feel loved, that might do more than the law, right? I don't know. Yeah, go ahead.
Well, I had another one.
Yeah.
Sexual harassment is like a really big problem, but I'm not sure how to make it like more political because it's more like it's kind of more like a people problem. But I guess I don't know. A lot of people like don't get repercussions for it, sort of like within the law. Like it's a whole problem of like believing.
Yeah. Do you in your educational experience here at Warsaw, are you being taught what's appropriate to say or do? Like, is there any of that, or is it considered almost crossing over into morality and religion? Like, I don't know if you guys are getting trained, like what's appropriate and not appropriate.
Well, yeah, in my PE class freshman year, my teacher like sat all the girls down like for a whole period and told us like how to defend ourselves and like and they like didn't talk to the boys about it, which is like yeah, it's like more being taught girls how to defend themselves than boys like telling them what's appropriate. So
gentlemen, are you getting any kind of guidance from the school? I'm not saying that you don't know this stuff, but are you getting any guidance of like what's appropriate? Anybody? Does anybody remember getting a talk about how to appropriately talk to a girl? Nobody? Yeah, that's sad. That's got to change. All right, we're going to go back to the room, and I want you to just jam on this until lunchtime. You all need to have a political topic. You should have had it for e-learning, but you have to have a political topic before you go to lunch.